Thank you. Good evening to anybody watching online. Good evening to our guests in the room this evening and to all members and officers present. The meeting of East Cambs District Council on Thursday, the 25th of July, starting at 6 p.m. Before we commence the meeting tonight, I'd just like everybody to know that as a council, we do allow filming and we do allow recording. So feel free to do that. And we'll now move towards the agenda. We're going to start tonight with the sad news of the loss of ex-District Councillor Paul Cox, who was District Councillor for the Littleport West Ward from 2015 to 2019. We're going to start, please, on those that are able to. I'm going to ask you to stand for a minute's silence in Paul's memory, and then we'll take tributes to Paul afterwards. So thank you. Now. At this point, as is custom in such loss, we invite people to offer any tributes that they might do, or any words that they are particularly close to or know the lost person. I understand on this one, and we'll welcome Councillor Christine Ambrose-Smith, who'd like to say a few words. Christine.
Thank you. This is very much a personal memoir. Paul, as we know, was only here for one term. However, I knew him for much longer. I first met Paul Cox in 1963 when I was about 7 years old. My family had moved to a rambling property on Victoria Street in Littleport during that year. To the rear of the property was a large building yard with workshops and garages. Exploring, as children do, I came across a young man doggedly digging post holes across the width of the yard. This was Paul. With his soon-to-be wife, Maureen, he'd purchased a plot of land at the furthest end, fronting onto Barkham's Lane. The fence he was starting to erect was the first stage in the build of the property, which was to become their home for the rest of their lives. Paul was also about to become our neighbour. Paul was born during the early stages of World War II, spending his childhood in a house close by my grandparents' City Road. He was a contemporary of my father's youngest brother, and they were close friends until Richard's early death. Leaving school, Paul took up an apprenticeship with Pies of Cambridge, at that time a significant developer and maker of TV sets and their operating systems. This was to prove a perfect occupation, as Paul was also always interested in the detail and improvement of anything he was involved in. As a young man, he became a founding member of a local skiffle group. I'm not entirely sure how accomplished a musician he was, but within the world of skiffle, no doubt enthusiasm was the thing, and he forever remembered this as a golden period. In the fullness of time, Paul and Maureen became the proud parents of twins, setting into family life, and Paul became something of a sportsman. 10-pin bowling, windsurfing, badminton, early morning running, and the necessity, of course, to keep fit. With a group of friends, Paul became a founder member of the Rotary Club, Littleport. As my husband was also a member, I remember the following years as being one long round of fundraising and community events, raising considerable funds for local, national, and international causes. When IT was in its domestic infancy, Paul took a deep and informed interest in this, and he became the local help desk for many of us. Some friends were convinced that emails would never catch on, a view Paul would have to have no truck with at all. During the mid-1970s, David and I cleared the workshop and garages behind my family home in order to build our own house. We became the sandwich filling with the Coxes on one side and my parents on the other. Moving on, Paul became a parish councillor, serving for a period as chair of that august organisation. He was eager to push forward computerised use within the parish council and also designed the first CCTV system within Littleport. True man of Littleport, Paul felt that Littleport should have the best that could be provided. I joined Paul at the parish council somewhat later, and a little later still was successfully elected as one of the 4 district councillors. Paul became very interested in this, so I suggested that he gets himself elected as a candidate, and which he did. Already old and great friends and colleagues together, we toured the outer reaches of Littleport, coming across many obscure fen roads and tracks unknown previously to either of us. Following the reduction in the number of wards and councillors within East Cambs, Paul sadly didn't get to be a candidate again, but continued as a parish councillor, serving the people of our community. Paul had an interest in a wide range of subjects: classical and ancient history, more recent British history, local history, the drainage of the fens, skating in the fens, musical types, genealogy, wartime scientific advances. Just a few of these come to mind. I've so many memories of the phone ringing, usually at some inconvenient moment, to hear his voice. "Hello, Christine, this is Paul. You'll never believe," and so it went on. And this was the moment to draw up a chair and prepare for the long haul. Although we had both visited Bletchley Park separately during the early days of that secret site being revealed and opened, we had great plans for a joint visit to see the more recent improvements. And as with many such plans, we never did get to go there together. Paul lost his beloved Maureen quite suddenly and far too early. Considerable courage, Paul remade his life and continued to find further subjects of interest to work upon. Paul had suffered with various health issues for many years until his health deteriorated quite quickly, passing away peacefully on the 6th of June this year. So to sum up, Paul was a well-rounded person with a wide circle of friends, someone who always wanted to improve the community he'd been born into and had spent his life in. And Paul is sadly missed by many. Thank you.
Thank you for such wonderful words, Christine. That was a very fitting tribute, and certainly summed up the man that I knew for the period of time when he was on the council here. So thank you, and our condolences go out to Paul and Paul's family. Okay, we're going to move on to the formal agenda now, and item 1, public question time. I understand we do have a question. It's in the box. Okay, we'll check that. There might be more than one. Hey, would you like to read the question?
Thank you, Chair. The question's from Bill Pepper, who's Chair of the Wycombe Parish Council, and he cannot be here today, so he'd like us to read it out. Dear Councillor Vellacott, I write regarding the existing bus service which serves Wycombe. The only public transport Wycombe benefits from is the weekly service, operating on a Thursday and travelling from Upware to Ely via Wycombe and Soham. The bus departs Wycombe at about 10:45, returning at about 14:30. This has not changed for many years, despite calls for an increased service. Whilst this service is welcome, it fails to provide a viable option to private transport. Many people who use the Thursday service rely on friends, family or taxis for the return journey, and the vast majority of Wycombe inhabitants rely on private transport for commuting and for other day-to-day journeys. Wycombe Fen, a destination of national importance, is visited by over 70,000 people annually and this level of tourism adds pressure on the local road network in addition to available parking at the Fen. A bus service, particularly operating on a Saturday from Ely or another origin, would help alleviate such congestion, as well as providing a welcome addition to the existing transport service to the village. Under the East Cambs Local Plan 2015, it states under 8.41, Infrastructure and Community Facilities, Improvements to Public Transport Services, the District Council's aspiration is to see existing service levels retained and to encourage and support self-sufficient demand response transport services, including committee transport. To date, no enhancement of the public transport service has been implemented. I acknowledge you have regularly fielded questions from both parishioners and parish councillors regarding the existing limited bus service, and I have been both understanding and supportive within the confines you're able to operate in. I further acknowledge you did ask the Mayor at the recent Combined Authority Overview and Scrutiny Committee for an update about the demand response transport in relation to Wicken. I understand that a route via Wicken is being considered in a rural community study, which will be ongoing until later this year. Whilst it would be unreasonable to expect the council to provide a multi-day, fully comprehensive public bus service for Wicken, could the council please give an update on plans to increase the bus service to Wicken and also the timescale envisaged? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for reading that out. Councillor Vellacott, would you like to respond to that, please?
Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you, Bill, for your very timely question, wherever you may be. I want to first commit the fact that Wicken Parish Council supported a weekly dialer ride service, a service to the world famous Wicken Fen, which, as you mentioned, is visited by over 70,000 people a year, and that the Parish Council also supported 2 new cycle routes through the village. Now, I'm a huge advocate, as this council knows, of the motorist, and I believe young people should be supported to work hard and obtain their freedom, but you should not be forced to own a car to live in Wicken. There's no shop, there's no school, and there's no bus. So some children are even taking taxpayer-funded taxis to school. So I first contacted the Mayor, Nick Johnson, when he announced that the mayoral precept would rise by 200% to discuss what we could do as a result of that to restore a bus service via Wicken. This tax rise, I'm very clear, was an unnecessary overstep. The Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authority has missed out on millions of government bus improvement funding, and it wasn't due to a lack of commitment to road charging, like they claimed. I'm inclined to put it down to a poor culture and 6 different CEOs in 3 years. But whatever has gone wrong at the Combined Authority, the result is that East Cambs pays more and gets less when some services near Cambridge are subsidised at a cost of over £100 per return journey to the taxpayer. Now, Nick said to me at the time that, and I quote here, expanded demand responsive transport services are to be closely aligned with the newly proposed Soham to Cambridge route. And I will hold him to ensuring that Wicken is linked into this. Because after all, within those plans that we've scrutinised, some good proposals are already present. I'm delighted at things like Sutton being linked into the St Ives busway and Soham into Cambridge. We just need to make sure more rural dwellers can actually access these services. That's only fair because they're paying the same precept. Now, I was pleased that this council appointed me to the Combined Authorities Overview and Scrutiny Committee, where the Mayor confirmed to me the route via Wicken was being considered in a rural community study. I await further details of this study in the autumn. There is to be an investment in a demand responsive trial area in East Cambridgeshire, but the Mayor insisted we must demonstrate community support for the project. Now, we can do that very easily, but we have to have the assurance that the Mayor is going to action it using the data that we provide. And in any case, we're in the system, and I'm working very closely with the Director of Place and Sustainability to make sure the word Wicken appears on every document that the Mayor looks at going forward. And that's hopefully going to help demonstrate strong community demand. I also found it quite amusing that when I was scrutinising the Mayor about the bus service, he asked me, Lucius, have you obtained your under 25 Tiger card yet? And I did make the point that in order for that to be remotely justified, you had to give me a bus first. The Combined Authority are going to consult on their proposals for bus reform across the region, which includes some franchising elements, so that which services run is in public control. And this could be good news for those affected by cuts, like the number 8 service in Littleport. The consultation responses must be taken seriously, unlike some congestion charging consultations undertaken by other authorities, and I encourage Wycombe Parish Council to participate fully in this, as I will. It's a shame as well that the Mayor isn't focusing a little bit more on rail as well, because with a bus to Soham and a dual line at the station, I fully envisage that Wycombe could be linked directly to Cambridge and London, and it could be transformative for local business and tourism, especially with the Fen, an excellent value for money for the taxpayer. I've always been clear we need carrots and not sticks to encourage people onto public transport. But that starts with making sure we include everyone, and the residents of beautiful Wycombe need that assurance. In terms of a timescale, I acknowledge we may have a long way to go before the familiar rumble of a bus engine is heard picking up passengers on North Street, but we are closer than we've been in years. I'm quite stubborn when necessary, and whilst I'm in office, I will not rest until I arrive at Wycombe Parish Council meeting by bus, and maybe then I might even apply for a Tiger card.
Thank you, Councillor Vellacott. We're going to move on then. Thank you very much to item 2. Apologies for absence. I understand we have a number. Do you want me to, I've got the names, or do you want to read them out?
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Jane.
We have apologies from councillors Akinwale, Brown, Kane, Huffer, Holtzman, Pettit and Wade.
Okay, thank you. Item 3, declarations of interest. To receive declarations of interest from members of any items on the agenda in accordance with the members' code of conduct. Do I see any declarations of interest? Okay, please remember that if any appear during the meeting, please shout then. They can still be accepted and noted. Minutes, item 4, the minutes on the 23rd of May. May I sign these at the end of the meeting as a true and accurate summary of the meeting? Councillor Dupre.
Thank you, Chair. I've got 2 corrections to make to the minutes, if I
Okay.
may. They both relate to the minute on page 21 of the response from the leader to my question. The first one is that in the 4th line down of Councillor Bailey's response, it refers to someone called Beth Skellhan. In fact, it is Beth Skellham, Skelham. And the second error of fact is the suggestion that this proposal was first put forward in 2019. In fact, it was put forward by Councillor Inskip and myself in 2016. And I have the literature, the leaflet that went out to all our residents to back that up. So perhaps the leader might correct that record.
Okay, how do we deal with this, please, John? Good catch.
They'll be signed, but they'll be added as amendments to the following minutes.
Assuming that they are agreed by,
Yes.
yeah, so do you want to comment on that, Councillor Bailey? I'll come to John in a second.
No, I haven't particularly got a comment then.
No, so you okay with that? If we sign that as an amendment?
Well, I haven't seen any of the literature to back it up. It says that, sorry, Chair. It says Conservatives first put it forward in 2019. I think perhaps the item where it says I was delighted to see the Conservatives' idea being adopted by Councillor Dupre is the only element that she could have contention with. So, I mean, I'm happy to take that out of what I said, but this is a verbatim record of what I said, so.
Yeah.
I think that is a point. I mean, if it's factually incorrect, then that can be amended, but it is a report of what was said. So
I think
I'll
the point is that it is factually incorrect as a matter of fact, and that note ought to be made.
I'll come to John.
Can I make a suggestion, then, Chairman? Obviously, thank you for correcting the spelling, which we'll do. I think you're essentially amending, as long as Councillor Bailey agrees that this is what she said. What Councillor Dupre is saying is a matter of clarification, really. And we would be happy if the council would be to put a footer to this item of the minute to say that Councillor Dupre and in the minutes made that point. I think that's probably the best way of doing it, because you can't amend what someone actually said.
Okay, that sounds like the right way forward. Are you happy with that?
Well, I think we're doing it on the hoof. I would like to see any wording of that, but I mean, perhaps I don't know whether that's my place to even have a comment on that. But, you know, if you actually read what I said in totality, I don't think there should be any issue with it personally.
Councillor Dupre.
I'm very happy to forward to Councillor Bailey the copy of the leaflet concern that I posted on social media after the last meeting, which clearly demonstrates that to be incorrect as a matter of fact. And I would like a footnote to that effect because it is clearly wrong.
Okay, then what I'll propose here then is if you can share that information with Councillor Bailey. Councillor Bailey acknowledges to Democratic Services she's happy. We will add the footnote. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm happy to.
yeah, okay, thank you. You made a note of that, Jane? Yep, thank you. Councillor Trapp.
Just a small point, page 9, third paragraph from the bottom, penultimate line, it says can, but I think it meant came. This road sweeps can at, I think it says came at 7 AM.
Could you tell us where that is again, please, Councillor Trapp?
Page 9,
Yes,
third paragraph from the bottom,
third paragraph from the bottom.
penultimate line, just above the full stop.
Okay. Right,
Oh, yes.
right. We can acknowledge that one now. I think that's a typing error, isn't
It
it?
shows I read the minutes until that.
Very impressive, sir. Very impressive.
Thank you.
Should be what?
I also read it, but didn't notice it. So there you go. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you for that. So with those two actions, I'll look to deal and sign with the minutes where I can after the meeting. Thank you very much. Moving on to chair's announcements. Couple of announcements from me. First and foremost, it's a shame she's not here this evening, but I would like very much to pass on a congratulations to Councillor Kane and wish her every luck as the MP for our district and our area. Also like to take the opportunity to thank Lucy for everything she did for us as well in that case. So wish them well. The second announcement I'd like to make is just to share with members what an absolute pleasure it was a couple of weeks ago to be in this room presenting awards for service and achievements made by our officers. They're all on the what we're going to call this, the wall of success behind the members over to the left-hand side. And whilst it's irresponsible to highlight many, I am going to highlight one, and unfortunately didn't make the meeting, although he did send his apologies, but we made an award to Peter Hiscott for his completion of 55 years of service. On the chair that the chair sits, it says on the back here, Newmarket Rural District Council, and that was who he first worked for when he began his job in the waste team, and he's still there. That is quite some achievement, but it was a really good event. I'd like to thank officers for organising it. I think it was the right thing to do. I think recognition and reward go hand in hand, and that certainly met the bill. So thank you for that. That completes the chair's announcements. Go to petitions. To receive any petitions?
No, Chair.
No petitions. Notice of motions under procedure rule 10. Any motions that we know of?
No, Chair.
No motions. Wow. To answer questions from members, I understand we have two. The first one came from Councillor Kelly Pettit to the leader of the council. Now, Kelly, quite late, has sent her apologies in, so I will read the council out. I will read out the question. What is the council doing in response to the Sonica decision earlier this month? That's the question. So with that, I'll ask the leader to respond.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I'm guessing I'm probably speaking for everybody across this chamber because I think we're united in our extreme disappointment that after years of making the clear case that a solar farm of this magnitude is simply in the wrong place, the Secretary of State has decided within days of taking office to grant a development order against the wishes of the community, the 4 affected councils, and against the expert advice of the examiner himself. There's currently no direct benefit to our communities from this site. It's deemed to have a significant impact on our communities, and there obviously are also biodiversity concerns. And added to that, unlike other solar farms, the community doesn't stand to benefit from cheaper energy, nor will the council receive any potential business rates income from the facility because it's a national infrastructure project. So together with Cambridgeshire County Council, Suffolk County Council and West Suffolk Council, we are examining the Secretary of State's decision. And as the solar farm is deemed to be nationally significant infrastructure and the development order is granted by the government, sadly, we're not able to appeal the decision itself. Instead, our only recourse is to undertake a judicial review of the decision known as JR. A JR isn't an appeal, it's not an appeal process and can't be launched because we don't like the decision that's been made. Rather, a JR reviews whether a decision has been taken lawfully and has it considered the correct issues and has it followed the right processes. So even if a procedural issue is identified, as I think most people know, it doesn't mean the decision will necessarily change. It would simply be a rerun of the decision-making process. The bar for even getting the grounds for JR heard is very high and incredibly costly. But we are working with the other councils to understand whether there are substantive and material grounds to challenge the decision. Obviously, any action needs to be agreed by the council as the cost and officer time is considerable. And, we're going to have to be assured by the advice received from barristers commissioned by Suffolk County Council and West Suffolk that there's a clear path to a successful challenge. Any decision made has got to consider the risk associated with the challenge and that the financial sustainability of the council isn't compromised. We're a small authority. Time is pressing and any intention to act does need to be submitted by the middle of next week. I am meeting with leaders from the other councils on Monday following the receipt of barristers' advice to discuss the situation further. Depending on the outcome of that, if the decision is taken collectively that we're not able to take further action, or if we were to take action and we were unsuccessful in the challenge, then the council obviously will give its efforts to and be committed to trying to reduce the impact of the facility on our communities. And I think there are several things that can be considered there. And we would work with the developer and other bodies to ensure that biodiversity and management of the ecology on the site isn't just simply an afterthought, and get around the table to identify added benefits that can be brought to communities affected by the solar farm. And I'll also lobby government in order that the financial benefits should be held locally to get, the business rates coming back to the councils rather than being going missing in central coffers. So there's a very long road ahead. This thing isn't going to get built tomorrow, but the council is absolutely committed to holding the developer and the government to account on it.
Thank you for that. As tempted as I am, I'm not allowed to answer to say any more on the matter. So I will go to the second question. It's a question from Councillor Christine Whelan to the Leader of the Council.
We have had a number of residents contact us about parking. We were promised a visionary scheme by the administration 3 years ago. We have not seen a recent update on this. Please can you confirm how many people have volunteered and how many people have been trained for this scheme?
Thank you. I'll ask the Leader to respond.
I'm sort of feeling a bit ad nauseum here because once again, I need to remind everybody that the council hasn't promised anything. This is not a council-run scheme. This is a police matter. On-street parking is a police matter, as everybody is acutely aware. From this council, we can only make suggestions, encourage activity, lobby for action, which, as I think Councillor Whelan is well aware, we've done extensively and over a long period of time. It's very frustrating that police haven't yet taken action. But if Councillor Whelan wants more detail, she should direct her questions to Cambridgeshire Constabulary, who it is their intention to run the scheme, as I think she well knows. Members have been previously advised the Constabulary's Change Board met at the end of November 2023, and an agreement was reached that a pilot would be explored to establish the Road Safety Police Support Volunteer role, but that initially their remit and their delegated powers would be limited to road safety issues, and that would include speeding and dangerous parking. I think we'd all argue that parking down Fall Hill in Ely causes danger. They informed us that should the pilot be successful, proposals for expanding their role and powers, which can include more general parking enforcement, could be submitted. And the police were exploring the possibility of using special constables for the scheme, as there are some specials who are not currently operational, and this does open various deployment possibilities because they retain full powers, including all road traffic powers. So a good use of their skills and expertise. Superintendent Sally has kindly been in touch with Superintendent Sutherland recently and did manage to get a last minute small update from him. And so he has said, he reports that, progress has been slower than he had hoped due to higher police operational priorities, but says he's shortly going to invite expressions of interest for the role and that he'll keep members updated.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Leader, for that response. That completes the questions from members. So we move on to item 9, which is the corporate plan. John, I understand you're going to introduce this.
Yeah, a very brief introduction, Chairman. Thank you. The report details in the appendices the action plan for 24-25, which is the next stage of the implementation of the agreed corporate plan 23 to 27. The report also details in paragraph 4.2 the progress made over the last 12 months. The recommendations are set out in 2.1. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Leader, I understand you're going to speak to this.
I'm happy to move the recommendations, and I think I've got a seconder.
Proposer and a seconder.
Happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you. You want to speak now, Keith, or do you want to reserve your right?
I'm happy to reserve my right. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to the leader then.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm delighted to note the progress on the corporate plan. Obviously, this is a document that is built from the administration's manifesto that we put out in the run-up to the May 2023 elections. Happily, we did promise to do everything we could to keep council tax low and only increase it as a last resort. And happily, we've managed to freeze council tax at this authority for an 11th consecutive year, which I think is some massive achievement, and is thanks to all our officers for their good husbandry of the council's finances, and particularly Ian and his team. The Eden Square project near the Paradise area in Ely is looking absolutely amazing. Don't know if people have been to have a look. And applications for the 400k homes have opened, giving eligible local people with the strongest ties to the community a really amazing opportunity to purchase their first home for a flat fee of £100,000. And I understand there have been many applications for those properties, which just shows that it is a popular product. And I do hope we can bring more forward in the future. The planning review was carried out, showed that the council is running a great planning service. Some areas for improvement were identified. Those are all well underway, and have already seen a marked reduction in the use of extensions of time, which is very good, because the planning inspectorate is going to be looking at that very carefully in the future, and also a 42% reduction in major project caseload just by dealing with things differently. So thank you to the officers for their excellent member seminar on the changes. Those who were able to come will have appreciated that. I'm sure it was incredibly useful. And there is a change in the way that we are working in the planning team. We're progressing with our long-term changes to the waste and recycling service through changes and improvements that I truly believe will be popular with the public. That's coming in 2026, but there's a very long lead-in time required because some big changes coming. Our focus with those changes from this council, and I believe this is a cross-party effort again, is on doing everything we can to maximise what is already a fantastic district recycling rate. I think we sit at about 25th best in the country. And I do believe with some changes we can do even better. And of course, we always want to provide a really comprehensive and great service for our residents. It's the single biggest thing that we do for residents. And I do want to say thank you to the cross-party working party for all their input into that, because it's been detailed. We continue with our work with Sustrans for carrying out our early work on cycling and walking improvement routes to put us in the best possible position of attracting funding. And indeed, we've managed to allocate some of our own funding to support delivery of 2 routes, Wycombe and improvements around Wychford to Ely. And what we're trying to do with that is put ourselves in the best possible position to attract funding from other organisations that are funded to deliver these things. The council successfully opposed the Cambridge congestion charge proposal by the Greater Cambridge Partnership. That has now been dropped. But I have to say, we continue to be vigilant about the measures being planned by the Greater Cambridge Partnership and the Mayor and the Combined Authority, particularly through its local transport plan to impose restrictions on motorists. It's all there if you want to have a look for it. So we must remain vigilant. In terms of the fantastic new bereavement centre near Meeple, the project team has now been established for delivery of the centre. And I, as I've said before, truly believe that this is going to be a community facility that we can all be incredibly proud of. And the build is due to start in late 2025. Some of the actions are ongoing or carried over. Many of those are due to circumstances outside of the control of the council. That is detailed in the covering paper. So just in summary, thank you to the whole council. You know, it takes officers and members from across the council for your part in delivering the corporate plan. I'm proud of the high regard in which residents and the wider population hold our small, but I think highly effective council. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Leader. Any speakers on this before I go to the second? Councillor Dupre. And Councillor Trapp.
Thank you, Chair. There are some elements of this action plan that I and my group welcome, particularly the play spaces audit and work on inclusive play. And I'd like to credit, and I'm sorry she can't be here tonight due to ill health, Councillor Chika Akinwale, who proposed that motion here. Digital inclusion is increasingly important, and it is worrying to see people increasingly excluded from being able to carry out basic functions of daily life by a technology that is supposed to help, but in many cases hinders. And we do need to resolve that, and also resolve the many not spots that we have. I mean, Ely, probably one of the most famous, a major city of the UK, with probably the worst access to mobile data that I've ever experienced. There are some elements in this document which arguably don't go far enough, in particular the climate and nature actions and goals, or in the same area of the council's operations express laudable ambitions, challenging ambitions, but with no obvious path to actually achieve them. But we know from experience that the council's corporate plan and the documents that flow from it cannot be trusted. The Conservative administration deliberately hid their massively unpopular and unwanted multi-million pound crematorium from its corporate plan so that it could spend money on it in secret. We cannot support the action plan while this remains a part of it, whatever it has been rebranded. Increasingly, residents are starting to question the idea that financial sustainability is the same thing as being quite so threadbare as this council is. And the question, can this council really provide the services people need in the mid-2020s with the spending power of the early 2010s, is a question that I'm hearing not from politicians, not from opposition, but from residents raising that question with me and in other places. Some of the items claimed in this document as progress stretch the imagination somewhat. Engaging with the Combined Authority's ongoing bus reform work apparently means abstaining on it at Combined Authority board meetings. Improvements to the BP roundabout to make it safe for pedestrians and cyclists are necessary only as a result of the utter refusal of some members opposite to implement those vital safety measures at the same time as encouraging more cars more quickly round that dangerous junction. And the road safety volunteer scheme that we've just heard about, that Conservative councillors have pressed the police vigorously into taking on despite their other obligations and priorities, was mooted in the autumn of 2021 when we were all wearing masks at a meeting in Littlecourt, and 3 years later, there is still nothing to show for it. It's not clear what this action plan will do to address the challenges the report itself identifies. The cost of living, for example, recruitment and retention of staff. And it frets about priority and capacity concerns at the Combined Authority, but not those here for which it's directly responsible. And last but not least, it is a strange action plan that has no implications of any kind. It has no financial implications, no legal implications, no staffing implications, no equality implications, no carbon implications, not even any data protection implications. In short, Chair, oh dear.
Thank you, councillor Trapp.
Thank you. Just a few points. The priorities seem fine, I mean, I agree with them. Delighted to have them, but was that a point of explanation?
No, come on, can we keep to the debate, please? Thank you.
But things like there's a priority of reduced environmental crime across the district. No action against it. There's no action against it, I can see. Similarly, support our businesses to thrive in East Cambridgeshire. I don't see any action for that. So in some ways, yes, it's a nice sort of apple pie motherhood sort of approach, but it doesn't actually say what we're going to be doing with it. The other one I think is missing. I know it's touched upon in the covering paper, but under 4 point, the local plan. We're almost 10 years out since the last local plan was envisaged. There's nothing here, an action of trying to get it. I know there's a new government. I know that we're going to have problems with different views, aspirations on planning, but it does seem that we ought to be working at least identifying things for the local plan, and it should be actually something that really is missing. And some of the appeals that we've lost was due to the inadequate local plan. So I think we ought to be looking at the local plan as soon as possible.
Thank you, councillor Trapp. Councillor Vellacott.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, East Cambridgeshire's Conservative Council is continuing to demonstrate best value for its residents. So I'm a little bit confused by some comments from the opposition. We're doing that chiefly by committing to deliver our services as fully as possible. Need I remind the council that we have not cut a single one without turning to residents' pockets, the first sign of difficulty. Something other councils could learn from. We're one of the best in the UK for value of money. No financial implications, that's a big one. I've spoken to people across the district, so Meath, Littledown and Ely, who ask why we can do it and the county council can't. The answer starts with our own council and other people's money, and we've got it right at these counts, rigorously defending. I'm particularly pleased in the corporate action plan with the actions for sustainable collaboratively across both parties to include the inclusive play strategy as part of the proposals. And I agree that the new digital inclusion project will ensure no one's left behind in a world which is moving at very good pace. We are full of great ambitious ideas like that. The council's engaged in the CPCA bus reform review. It needs to be concentrated on our most rural communities. I won't repeat myself from earlier. It's not acceptable some of the situations that we see in East Cambridgeshire. And we absolutely must tackle the legal part. As we know, civil parking enforcement is a blank check in East Cambridgeshire. It will cost our residents far too much to justify that expenditure. So I do support the proposal for the road safety police volunteers. We've got great numbers of people who are interested and it will work effectively, but the proposal is taking too long. This council needs to step up its pace of pushing the police, whose responsibility this is, to get the people on the ground. The Liberal Democrats know that the policy from this administration is we will not implement civil parking enforcement. So I would sincerely appreciate if they'd work with us with the best idea going forward. And in terms of the residual actions from last year, I actually very much look forward to implementing our new waste and street cleansing review next year, and also to the to Wickham cycleway being built over the summer. This is completely contrary to what we've heard. The corporate plan, which is focused on value for money and exceptional service delivery, has my support. Let's get on and deliver it.
Thank you. Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Chair. Just 2 points, really. Just agree with Councillor Dupre in terms of the inclusive play policy that was the joint party motion that we had last meeting. So welcome working on that going forward. And the other thing in terms of Sustrans and the work we did on the active travel routes, and like to thank the working party for that. The cross-party working party for that. And I did raise at the Highways and Transport Committee on Tuesday how we get our schemes onto the LC WIP, which is the County Council scheme. So certainly when that is refreshed, we want to be pushing as hard as we can to get our schemes forward. But thank you. Thank you for the rest of it, Chairman.
Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Chair. I find it very difficult to recognise the area that Councillor Dupre lives in and the area that I live in. I live in an area which isn't all doom and gloom and criticism of the local authority. I live in one where people actually bump into me in the street and say, "Isn't East Cambs a lovely place?" And they also, and let's be realistic. I think I heard Councillor Dupre criticising the bereavement centre. Now, she knows the facts of that because she was on a working group with me and one other when we went through all the alternatives to be done with that site. And she was part of a decision-making process. So I don't know quite how she aligns her facts. I'm looking at a place which 4 people are going to get £100,000 homes. I'm looking at
Point of personal explanation, Chair. I was never
seats
part
for a
of
second.
any decision that proposed a bereavement centre for this site. Let's make that absolutely clear.
Thank you. Carry on, please, Councillor Hunt.
Well, I'm not clear about what you just said, but I'll carry on. The 4 people who are going to get £100,000 homes will be delighted and think, isn't this a nice area to live in? And also, I have to say, I'm ever so proud when I talk to people who I know from all over the country, and in fact all over Europe, when I explain that there hasn't been a council tax increase for 11 years. And they say, my goodness. I do give council, I give some of my colleagues over on the other side, Councillor Trapp particularly, he's not all doom and gloom. And he does actually recognise that good things come from this council. I just hope that feeling of warmth will spread all over that side of the chamber. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. With no further speakers showing, we'll go back to the seconder, Councillor Horgan.
Thank you, Chair. I guess one of the problems with speaking last is what hasn't already been said.
You don't actually speak last, there's someone else to follow you, but we'll see the story going there. Go for it.
Sure. Okay. First of all, I'd like to offer a conciliatory approach and say that I echo and endorse much of what's been said on both sides this evening. Perhaps not everything, but we occasionally agree to disagree. But what I would like to point out is what I think are some of the highlights of this corporate plan is where both parties have worked together to contribute towards some of these best ideas, such as those raised earlier regarding the audit of council-owned play spaces with a view to improving them. And I think that is a shining example how, if we put our differences aside, we can work so much better together. I wasn't going to, but I will say something about the bereavement centre, because I must admit, when I voted in favour of that previously, I didn't realise that I was actually going to be in need of bereavement services quite so soon personally. And with the passing of my mother last month, only then did it really come home to me how important it is to have a bereavement centre at the heart of our district. Or perhaps the heart of our district is not geographically the right expression, but I think emotionally it qualifies. But I certainly now know that if I'd had the ability to use a centre much closer to home, that would have been of a great benefit to me and my family. So I appreciate you understand. A couple of other points, obviously, and again, this gets down into the detail very quickly. We've recently seen the launch again of the £20,000 to improve the High Street in Ely. And I was very instrumental as a Surrey Town Councillor last year to make sure that the money, similar sum that was available to Soham, was also extremely well applied and provided a number of important refurbishment programs. And I will just close by saying that I'm delighted that we have a real tiger chasing up bus services for us, and sure that whether the number 9 or 8 bus it is that in Littleport that is not running as frequently as we would like it to. I know that we've got the right man on the case, and I certainly thank Councillor Vellacott for his diligent services in that area. That's all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Horgan. Back to the proposer, Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I do want to address some of the things that have been said, not that surprisingly. I share Councillor Dupre's concerns about digital exclusion, and perhaps she might help me with something that via the County Council, because I discovered recently that even though the County Council is hosting a petition that I set up to try and support the thousands of residents that have contacted me who are very anxious about the blanket approach and the nature in which the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit was rammed into Ely, and wanting to have their say on it and asking for a review. And the County Council refused to let me lodge a hard copy of the petition in Ely Library, which I thought was an extraordinary decision, given that they were happy to host the petition on their website. So she can perhaps help me by undoing that element of digital exclusion that the County Council isn't being very supportive with. I really do have to say that I think I'm really disappointed in Councillor Dupre's comments about our climate and nature work, because I think it's absolutely wrong what she said. And I think it denigrates the hard work of quite a large number of people across this authority who put their heart and soul into the things that we do deliver. And we deliver large things like moving some of our waste fleet over to HVO fuel, and we deliver lots of small things that have benefits in many of our communities and are really loved by our parish councils and our communities. And actually this council is committed to get to net zero, true net zero, which not all councils in Cambridgeshire are counting it as true net zero, by 2035. That's one of the best targets in Cambridgeshire. And actually we are evidencing how we're going to get there, and we are evidencing that we are actually getting there. It's not helped, I have to say. You know, I'm a huge fan of our environment plan having a huge flavour around biodiversity and nature recovery. And I've been hammering on the door of the Combined Authority, which is charged with delivering the local nature recovery strategy, which it has farmed out to the County Council to deliver, and it's been delayed twice now by a total of 10 months. And it was only a thing that was only supposed to take 5 months, and it is hampering this council from delivering on its biodiversity responsibilities. So yeah, this council is actually doing more than most in this area, and I think it's really denigrating to say that it's hopelessly inadequate, or whatever word she used. I can't remember. She probably didn't use those words. Around the crematorium, look, I accept that the Liberal Democrats don't want the bereavement centre. They need to understand that we stood on a platform of delivering the bereavement centre. We are delivering it. It is perfectly normal to work up commercially sensitive proposals in exempt session. The County Council does it all the time. And Councillor Dupre knows that perfectly well. And as soon as we were able to, we put as much information as we possibly could out there. And I think she should, unless she's, you know, she never has put forward an alternative proposal that respects the biodiversity and the internationally important species that is on that site. There is no alternative proposal that could deliver an outdoor leisure centre. We've said this ad nauseum. She knows that, Chairman, and I think it's just really bad to keep hammering the same activity. And I've addressed the comments before about, you know, the entire district not wanting the crematorium. It's completely nonsense. You know, the consultation response that we had was only 88 people, and a number of those were wedded to the idea of it trying to be an outdoor leisure centre, which we've adequately shown is just simply not possible. The idea that this is a threadbare council is nonsense. The Liberal Democrats themselves called for 2 council tax freezes. They can't now say that was irresponsible. And if Councillor Dupre, can't remember if she was there, but if she came to the seminar that we had on our budget, she would have had heard an external gentleman, very well-to-do gentleman who understands, you know, the finances of many councils across the country, really applauding the way that the council runs our finances here. I don't think Councillor Dupre has quite got with the programme that we're doing things differently in order to save money and bring money into the council in different ways. And I would remind her that, you know, the moving of our Parks and Open Spaces team into East Cambs Trading Company has provided £300,000 back to this council in the management fee alone. Palace Green Homes has provided significant funds into this council. So it's not about being threadbare, it's about doing things differently. And she might like to start looking at what we're doing and start applying that to the county council. And finally, I utterly refute her comments about the BP roundabout requirements for pedestrians. The previous mayor was absolutely committed to that, and it is the current mayor who's failed to deliver it.
Okay, thank you. So thank you. Okay, members, we're requested to, 1, approve the updated action plan on the 24-25 as at appendix 1, and 2, note the completed actions and progress made during the past 12 months. I would like to take both of these in one vote because that's the way I'm sensing things here. All those in favour of the recommendations? Thank you. And all those against? And all those that will abstain? Thank you. You get the numbers, Jane?
That's 11 in favour and 9 against.
Sorry.
9 abstained, sorry.
Thank you. Okay, that's that one finished with then. Thank you very much. We will move on to item 10, schedule of items recommended from the committees and other member bodies. Treasury Operations Annual Performance Review. Who's introducing this, please?
I think you should move to the proposal second.
Okay, so do we have a proposer for this, please?
Yes, Chair, happy to propose.
Thank you, Alan. And the seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Ian, Councillor Bovington. Thank you very much. Right, Alan, do you want to speak to it?
Yes, thank you. Very briefly. Just want to highlight a couple of things that are in the report. Hopefully members have had a chance to read it. Like to thank the finance team, especially Ian, who leads that team, for the work they've done in the last year on treasury management. And just really bring out a couple of salient points. The detail is in Appendix A and then more so in Appendix B if you want to read into the detail. But the council earned over 2 million in interest off the money markets in this last year. And we certainly have, because of the way that the team have managed those finances, we've been able to move to longer term investments, 3 to 6 month investments, which is more consistent with earning greater returns. There's been no external borrowing within 23-24. So again, I think that's a wonderful achievement for this council. And finally, obviously, if you look at the gain in Appendix B, and I'm sure you'll know from the press, it's expected that the bank rate will come down later this year and into 2025. So that will obviously have a challenge in terms of our earning those interest rates, but I'm sure Ian and the team will actually work hard to actually achieve that. So I'd like to propose this and thank the, as I say, once again, thank the finance team for the work they've done on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers on this, please? Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, just very briefly, because I ran out of time on my last item, but I'm pleased to note the income from East Cambs Trading Company of 255,000. You know, that's come from having made a loan to East Cambs Trading Company. So there is a working example of how we're doing things differently in this authority, and ECTC has benefited this council by some £5.8 million to date.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much. Anybody, any other speakers? Yes, Councillor Whelan, Alison, sorry.
Thank you, Chair, and if you'll bear with me, I will sit down through
That's fine.
this. And apologies, I can't see anyone. You may be aware that I had quite a serious accident while out campaigning. Quite successfully, I have to say. But I'd like to say thank you for bringing this report, and it is good to see that the money is being managed in a way to generate return. Of course, that's the whole purpose of Treasury management. But sadly, it does raise questions. The interest rates that we're claiming credit for using were predicted. They were predicted by all the financial pundits before this budget was put together. So we shouldn't be talking about the fact that there is this massive positive variance because it was perfectly foreseeable before it happened. What it does is just highlights the complete financial incompetence when it comes to budgeting by this administration. Thank you.
Any more speakers on this subject? Okay, we're going to move to the seconder, Councillor Bovington.
Nothing to add, very disappointing.
I apologise, I've missed a speaker, Councillor Bovington, so if I can get you to hold for a second. Councillor Hunt. It's difficult to see you back there.
Thank you, Chair. I'm really surprised by Councillor Whelan's different view of the world than from mine. And it seems to me my view is a positive one. And I want to say thank you to our senior staff and our financial people for all they do. And I just can't recognise the different worlds we inhabit. I mean, I'm looking at a world here where the investments have increased by 1.6 million. The loan to East Cambs Trading Company is down by $1 million. The interest that we get from our investments has gone up, and we're getting an annual return of 5.49. I can only say we live in a different world from the people over there. Thank you, Chair.
You're coming in to speak now. Yes, okay, thank you.
Brief rhetorical question for the council. How on earth is using interest rates when they're set, not assuming them beforehand, for financial management?
Okay, I don't think we're seeing any other speakers on this matter, so we'll now go back to Councillor Sharp to sum up. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be very brief. I commend this report to the council, and I'm sorry, I do not recognise at all what Councillor Whelan is saying. It's certainly not my feeling or understanding of how this council is managed. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to the vote then, and we are voting to approve this report. All those in favour of approval? I think that's unanimous, James. His hands up, his right hand's up. Yeah, he's behind. Yeah. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to item 11, neighbourhood plans. We have the neighbourhood plans from Meeple and for Sutton. I'm just going to add a few words from the start, and they are on your desk. One thing I would say to remind all members, if you do not wish to take these for your own use, can you please make sure they're left on the table nearest the door so that they can be reused? I think we have two excellent neighbourhood plans presented here from the parishes of Meeple and Sutton. And from the chair and on behalf of this council, I'm very happy to propose acceptance of them. But I will come to local member Councillor Inskip for a few words on each, I guess.
I'll second them, and I'll speak now.
Thank you.
Okay. Yep. So yeah, I'm very pleased to be able to speak on the making of both the Meeple neighbourhood plan. And sorry,
My fault entirely. I do apologise, Councillor Inskip. I was supposed to ask Sally to introduce them, and I've completely missed out Sally. Sally, I'm sorry, you couldn't kick me from there, could you? So I do apologise.
Thank you, Chair. There are two neighbourhood plans for consideration this evening, and you have a copy of each before you. The Meeple neighbourhood plan referendum was held in June, and 90% of votes cast were in favour of the plan. Sutton already has a neighbourhood plan in place. However, the parish council decided to update it. The Sutton replacement neighbourhood plan referendum was held on the 4th of July, and 86% of votes cast were in favour of the plan. The final step in the process for both plans is for this council to formally make the Reach Neighbourhood Plan and the Sutton Replacement Neighbourhood Plan part of the development plan for East Cambridgeshire with immediate effect.
Right, with apologies, councillor Inskip, I will come back to you and you will second them and you will speak now.
Yes,
Thank you very
Phil.
much.
Yes, yes, so I'm still very pleased to be able to speak on both the making of the Meeple Neighbourhood Plan and the replacement Sutton Neighbourhood Plan. And I know from my own experience, having participated in both the development of the original and the replacement Sutton Neighbourhood Plans, what a beneficial process that is for local communities. It is, of course, primarily a statutory planning document, but the policy, but the process to develop that is much more than just a planning process. It's a way to engage with the local community, to get local residents to think about and to shape how their communities are going to develop. And often it isn't just about capturing those important planning policies, but as well thinking about other actions that can be taken, for example, by the parish councils to improve and develop their local communities. Now, the Meeple Neighbourhood Plan, that's the 8th plan, and I think that means we'll have 8 parishes covered by a neighbourhood plan. It's the second one in my ward to complete the process. We have a 3rd parish that's also working on a plan, and hopefully in the next year or so, they will also be at a time when they've had a successful referendum. Meeple is quite a small community and a small parish council, and I think we, in terms of putting together their neighbourhood plan, they've been able to demonstrate isn't a process that is just restricted to those larger parishes, and it was really good to see that they were able to achieve that 90% yes vote in the referendum. Now, moving to Sutton, that's the village that's my home. I think it's useful just to explain why we went through the process again, having already developed a neighbourhood plan. And that's partly because planning legislation moves on, and that certainly happened even with the legislation for neighbourhood plans, and local circumstances and change over time and community concerns. And so it's important to keep planning documents up to date to remain relevant. And that's why the parish council in Sutton agreed it was important to create a replacement plan. It's more than 5 years since the original plan was made, and as has been referenced earlier in debates, it's now nearly a decade since the local plan was adopted. And then coming to the details, changes in planning legislation meant that we could add a design code to the neighbourhood plan. We've done that. We're able to commission a housing needs assessment, which details the type of housing that people living locally need. And we also use it as an opportunity to strengthen policies in areas such as climate change, biodiversity, and dark skies. And Sutton's neighbourhood plan achieved an 86% vote in favour, so again, overwhelming. It also had the highest turnout of any neighbourhood plan referendum at 85.5%, and I think that record at 58.5%, and I think that record's going to stand for some time, I think. But it was good to see residents turning out to vote in that referendum, and also sparing time to vote in the general election at the same time. But I think in summary, these are both very good plans, and I think build on the work that's been done across the district in terms of parishes developing neighbourhood plans. And I'd like to commend both the Meeple and the Sutton neighbourhood plans to the council, and hope that all members will be able to support the recommendation before us.
Thank you, councillor Inskip, and as a local member, well spoken. I think that you captured those both well, which and coming back to me to sum up, I don't think there was any other comments on this. Oh, there is, councillor Dupre. I do apologise.
Sorry, Chair, as the other local member for both of these neighbourhood plans, I wanted to say a few words. And like my colleague, councillor Inskip, I'm particularly pleased that they are both being presented for making tonight. Both have been supported at referendum by a substantial majority of their local communities, as has already been said. Neighbourhood plans play a vital role in the planning process, giving local communities genuine opportunities to shape their place. In Sutton, this was nowhere more obvious than the long-running planning battle over development at Garden Close. the defence put up, a rather half-hearted defence put up by this council of its refusal of the reserved matters application for Garden Close in April 2023, means that the developers now have a choice of two unsatisfactory schemes to implement, but at least the neighbourhood plan came to the fore in reducing to some extent the level of overdevelopment first proposed by the developer. But neighbourhood plans are not just a means to forestall inappropriate development. They are positively an opportunity for local people to meet, to discuss and consider what makes their community work and what makes it special. What is needed to meet the challenges of the future? What about their community most needs protecting and enhancing? And where appropriate development can provide the right sort of housing and amenities for current and future residents. I'd like to thank and congratulate the respective parish councils of Meeple and Sutton and the members of both communities who have engaged with the process of these two plans, both attending local exhibitions and taking part in working groups and contributing to those discussions, and in other ways during their respective stages. I will be delighted to vote tonight in support of the proposal that both of these plans be made. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Trapp, you want to say a few words?
Sorry, what happened there? Just intrigued by the number of ballot papers that were rejected at Sutton, 77, which is quite a high proportion.
Okay, we note your intriguement. Thank you very much. Right, okay, we'll move on. I'm just going to say a few words to sum up. A great example of a first-time plan, a great example of a revised plan, and I welcome both. And I think the Meeple plan would be a good one for anybody that's working on to have a look at for a new plan and how they work. And I think the Sutton replacement one ought to act as a bit of an encouragement to anybody that's already got a plan to say they should be looking at bringing it up to date as soon as possible. So thank you very much. So on that, I would very much happy to move to the vote on accepting both the Sutton and the Meeple plan. We'll do them together and recognising them as neighbourhood plans. That is unanimous. Thank you very, very much. And congratulations to both Sutton and Meeple. Thank you. Next, we're going to move on to item 12, which is the ECSS Memorandum of Agreement Extension. Isabel, I won't miss you out because you dug me in the ribs twice already. I'll come straight to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. In March 2024, the government confirmed that the council would be required to implement the simpler recycling regime by April 2026 as part of its broader obligations under the Environment Act 2021. Therefore, council is asked to approve the extension of the existing Memorandum of Understanding with ECSS until the 31st of March 2026, which will enable the smooth transition to a new service in 2026, and to instruct the Director of Legal to complete the necessary documentation.
Thank you. Do we have a proposer for this, please?
Chair, I'm happy to request council accept the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. And a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
You're happy to second and reserve your right to
Reserve
speak?
my right to speak.
Okay. Proposer, Councillor Vellacott, over to you, please.
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman. So because we'll have a full opportunity to debate the new waste service in October and September, if you're lucky enough to be on op services, I won't delve into the detail of that here. But I'm very pleased that we're making progress towards black wheelie bins by 2026, as well as measures to boost our recycling rates across the district, which are already fantastic. That will have clear financial and environmental benefits for the council and the wider district. I'm also delighted that both political groups are looking at continuing with ECSS. This represents the very best value for money for residents, especially given the improvements made to governance and structure over the last few years. And it ensures that the waste service operates under the same objectives as the council. And it's clear that running a trading company supports our residents and saves our residents a great deal of money, whilst ensuring that the company is fully accountable to them alone. And I'm proud that it continues to perform well and meet almost all of its KPIs every month. And so to tide this over and to demonstrate that ECSS can sign off their accounts for the last year, we will need to extend the existing MOU, and that will have my support. And with a more formal contract in place for the new waste service, that will form up our close alliance with the company and ensure the service is fit for the future. So a smooth transition can then take place and our residents will be even better served by the company. So please do join me in voting to renew our until then.
Thank you, councillor Vellacott. Any speakers on the subject? I'm seeing none. So go back to councillor Sharp, the seconder.
Nothing to really add, Chairman, I think.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I assume the proposal was also finished as you were the only
No, I
speaker?
have so much more to say.
In that case, we will go to the vote. The council is requested to approve an extension period as set out in section 4.3 and 4.4 to the existing memorandum of agreement with ECSS and authorise the director legal to complete the necessary documentation to bring this decision into effect. All those in favour, please. Would appear to be unanimous again. That moves us on to the last item on tonight's agenda, item 13, Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authority Update Report. This is the opportunity for anybody to ask questions of the representatives on the CPCA of anything that's been in the published minutes of the Combined Authority. I didn't think there'd be a rush and there's not. So are we ready for this? At 7:16, I will declare the meeting closed and thank you very much for being here tonight. You're good.